Let's talk murder, killers don't sweat. Let's talk death.
Hey guys,
Hello.
hi.
Hi.
Welcome to Let's Talk Death.
The podcast where we share our favorite murder stories to you guys.
We have a lot in store for you this episode, so get ready.
I'm Shreya.
I'm Hannah,
I'm Natalie.
And I'm Emily.
and we have a special guest.
I'm Zaya.
Woo, let's give her some claps. Okay, so first we're going to start with the story, The Disappearance of Walter Collins.
Also known as the Wineville Chicken Coop Murders.
It's a great story. It's really creepy, and it's also a cold case. Do you want to explain what a cold case is?
So,
A cold case is pretty much a case that's,
it's
They
not
don't-
solved yet.
it's
We
not
don't
solved
know
yet,
what
yeah.
yeah.
and these cases are usually the best ones. They're so
Because
interesting.
there's a lot of questions and,
and
like, things that
they're,
follow it.
yeah, and they're really suspenseful too, so.
Okay, let's start. So, let's start with Walter Collins. Walter Collins was born on September 23rd, 1918 in Venice, Los Angeles. His parents were Christina Ida Collins and Walter J. Collins, and the story takes place in, like, the late 20s.
Yeah, so Walter Collins is like the main guy, and he kind of gets lost in the story.
Lost.
Lost.
Ooh.
With
Ooh, I
with
love
finger quote.
So, Christine Collins, Walter's mom, was born on December 14th, 1888 in Los
My
Angeles,
birthday.
California.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
1988.
Is it connected?
How do you feel about that? 200 years old.
Yeah, is it
No,
connected?
that's not 200.
Okay,
It's
okay.
okay.
One here.
Okay, Christine married Walter J. Collins, and she didn't really know about his past, so that comes up later.
Yeah.
But,
He was an ex-convict, by the way.
yeah. So after Walter Senior, let's call him, that's his dad. Walter Senior, after his mother died, he went back to his criminal behavior and was put into a Folsom State prison.
Why,
That's his
Papa?
backstory.
Okay, so this is like the beginning of the story. Walter Collins,
The
Jr.
boy, yeah.
Yeah. He was 9, and on March 10th, 1928, he got money from his mother, and he left to go to the movies alone.
At 9 years old.
At 9 years old. Like, first of all, what parent would let you go alone to the
But I
movies?
guess the time period. But I feel like in that time period,
At
that would have been
9,
worse.
I feel like
yeah.
still,
We don't have any
okay.
phones.
I guess. With somebody. Do
They-
they,
What
Negligence.
are we going to see in
do
the
they
first
have
place?
real phones back then?
No,
I
well,
don't
think
they had
so.
they had I don't even know if the phones would run. I think
This
so.
is
No,
kinda
the
off topic.
phones are
Let's
real.
get back to
Yeah, yeah.
But still, it's
Yeah.
kind of really unsafe to go to the movies by yourself, right? And
Especially if
being
you're 9.
Exactly.
This is the roaring 20s with all that jazz. And
Okay.
Yeah. And so he disappeared. He was last seen at 5 p.m. at the corner of Pasadena Avenue and North Avenue, 23 in Lincoln Heights, LA.
So, Christine, when she told the police, she refused to believe that her son would just run away because she knew that Walter was a good kid.
She was so stubborn about
Yeah.
this.
So she came to the dreaded conclusion that he had been kidnapped. And the police searched and questioned suspects, well, quote-unquote, searched, in the neighborhood, but could not find any leads or evidence to his abduction.
So the real truth was that the police really didn't care about this case and really just, because it was a woman and they just thought she was
Yeah.
kind of crazy.
So the
And she was
police
a
are
single
wrong.
mom.
They're kind of the bad
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, true. I guess there's...
I mean, I
they were
guess-
lacking, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Slackers.
days later, Christine, she finally again called the LAPD to report her missing son, and they figured that Walter ran away. Christine believed her son had been kidnapped and urged the police to investigate the case more. So
Yeah.
they found witnesses. Well, one was Mrs. A. Baker. She said that she saw Walter in an automobile with 2 foreign people begging to be released, and other neighbors claimed that Walter was with an Italian with a woman, and he was asking for Walter's address.
Hmm. And all of this information and suspects, all of the leads led to nothing. And, well, the
They gave up.
LAPD, kind of gave up. They were so unmotivated.
Yeah.
And
We love
they,
that.
yeah, they kind of gave up. Anyway, 5 months later, Walter was found alive, in quotes, in DeKalb, Illinois. Or so they thought. Walter,
Where did he come from?
Hmm?
Where did he come from?
he was from
Where was
Illinois.
Walter from?
Yeah.
Well, Walter was originally
Cali.
from, California.
Yeah.
Okay.
But they found him.
They found
The police
Found.
found him.
because they
Other
thought
side
he
of the
ran
world.
away.
Okay.
Yeah, so Walter was immediately put on a train to Los Angeles, and there's a little backstory with him, which we'll share later. But he was put on a train to LA, and then Christine saw him and took him back home, even though she was a little suspicious that he wasn't her son. He was kind of like, how do you say? She was kind of nervous.
Well, with all the press people there and everyone knew about the story, I felt like she was forced to
Probably.
put a smile
Yeah.
on her face and be like, "Oh, I got my kid," and the LAPD did something right.
It makes sense because no one really cares about her case, and everyone just wanted to end, so
Yeah.
it makes sense. 3 weeks after their reunion, Christine Collins brought the boy back to the police station 3 weeks after, claiming that he wasn't her son.
And the boy, well, how she knew this was that the boy was taller than Walter, and she and Walter would track his height, like, once in a while. And then he called her Ma instead of calling her mother, like the real Walter would.
Also, she brought Walter's dental records and signed statements from people who knew Walter, saying that the boy was not him.
This kind of sounds like the Stranger Things lady. Like,
Oh,
where she sees
yeah.
the body and she's like, that's not
That's
him.
not-
Yeah.
That's
not
like,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Just
I never
saying.
thought of that.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
this is like the real life Stranger Things, I guess.
ooh.
No, but
Only like
He went
Yeah.
to the other
Without
side.
the
to,
side.
yeah. Without-
see, the
Okay.
thing that confuses me is why 3 weeks after the reunion? Why did she keep him for 3 weeks?
well, maybe she wasn't
Maybe she
necessarily
felt
like
bad that she would
sure,
have to put this kid back
or
out.
maybe she was like doubting herself. You know, like
Okay, back to the story.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
So Captain Jones, the head of the LAPD at the time, called her a lunatic and claimed that she was trying to get the state to take care of her child. So
Yeah.
he basically said, "You're not taking this kid who's clearly your kid. So why aren't you cooperating with us?"
And on September 8th, 1928, she got sent to a psychiatric ward,
Psychiatric.
psychiatric ward in LA County General Hospital on a code 12, which means the police could pretty much get rid of troublemakers by throwing them into psychiatric
That's
Psychiatric.
wild.
psychiatric
Yeah, that's kinda
hospitals.
messed up.
That's so.
That's
like,
that's
Yeah.
oh
literally
my
saying
god.
It's
your
really
kid's
messed
good.
up.
Like that's just labeling them as crazy and then
That's
just
uh-huh.
sending them off.
That's they don't want to deal with the problems.
And the fact that they
Exactly.
don't like have
Yeah.
any tests to show any like absolute proof. is-
Insane.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so 10 days later, the Walter that was there
Wall.
The quote-unquote Walter.
admitted that he was actually this kid named Arthur Hutchins Jr. He was a 12-year-old boy from Iowa who was running away from an unhappy life.
Yeah.
So, Arthur, the real kid, his mother died and he ran away from his father. Like,
Yeah,
there
okay.
were, his mother died and he ran away from his father and stepmother and hitchhiked around the U.S. when someone told him that he resembled Walter Collins.
Yeah, he was in a bar, and then someone was like, "Hey, do you know about this guy?" And he went to the police and told them that he was Collins, and the police were kind of skeptical, but allowed it because they really did not care about the
They
case.
wanted to get the case
Wait,
over
how
with.
old was this kid?
9 when
And
he
he
got.
was hanging out in a bar?
Well, he was
Like-
hitchhiking, so he was
Yeah.
like going
Yeah.
places. He was living life on it.
He
Yeah,
was
he
so
was at,
he
like,
had-
a- mhm.
He admitted he wasn't Walter.
He-
basically.
he admitted he was Walter. He said, "Guys, I'm Walter, so can you?"
But
take
then he
me?"
like went back.
So
on
what
it,
he
right?
did was that he pretended to be Walter
Oh.
just to get a free trip to LA. Because if
Yeah.
you remember, he said that he was sent to LA. Like Christine paid for that.
Yeah.
For him to be sent to
And
LA.
here's the funny part. He pretended to be like this boy just to get a free trip because he wanted to see his favorite cowboy in LA.
Yeah.
But I mean, after like
Nah.
what?
Oh my god.
After 3 weeks, I mean, he could get what he wanted. He was in LA, so he was pretty smart.
Yeah.
gets
Well, Christine was released from the psychiatric ward and filed for a lawsuit for false imprisonment, and she won the lawsuit. So she basically like sued them, and so Jones, Captain Jones, the head of the LAPD, owed Christine $10,000 for the abuse that she suffered, and he never paid, which is absolutely ridiculous.
Again, it
Crazy.
shows how she was
He
treated.
still like has not. Well, he's dead, obviously,
Gotta love
but he
him.
never got to pay.
It's insane how terribly women were treated back then.
Oh yeah.
Uh-huh.
Okay,
Crazy.
so let's get into the theories.
Okay.
So one
Yeah.
theory is that Walter Collins, the senior, the father,
Mm-hmm.
when he was in the prison, he worked in the cafeteria, and one of his responsibilities included reporting violations, and
Yeah.
this means that he could have made enemies.
Definitely,
so he, was,
he
like, the
definitely
snitch
made
of the
enemies.
jail.
Uh-huh.
So he believes that a former inmate kidnapped Walter for revenge.
I mean, he has a really great motive.
But
It's
there's
Snitches
not
get
there's not
stitches.
proof.
Yeah,
It's
I
his
mean,
son's gonna
that's just a
say.
theory. Yeah.
and that's the
A
one
game
that's like a
theory.
really big motive, and that's one of the theories. This is the theory that doesn't have a lot of
So theory 2 is the
Evidence.
main one.
yeah.
That has more evidence.
For this theory, the police turned up a lead for a case later and believed that Walter was killed by this guy named Gordon Stewart Northcott,
Important name. Remember that name.
a murderer who was responsible for killings in the infamous Wineville chicken coop murders.
He looks.
He looks
slow.
like a
Yeah,
mad
he
lad
looks-
right there.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Look
That
at those
smiles too
brows.
much.
Anyway,
Probably the
backstory.
president.
Gordon's father bought him a 3-acre chicken farm, and Gordon claimed he needed help running the farm.
So
he,
wait, no, his mom was on the farm too. That's another thing.
Yeah, his
he and
mom
his
was
mom
on
worked
the
together
farm.
on the farm.
Mhm. He went to Canada to visit his sister and persuaded her to let her 14-year-old son go with him
Sanford.
alone.
His name is Sanford.
Yeah, her 14-year-old son,
Sanford.
and
Sanford.
he kind of persuaded her to allow him to take him to work in the farm alone.
Yeah. So okay. Well, while at the farm, Gordon physically, mentally, and emotionally abused.
And sexually.
Yeah, abused
Oh my
his
God.
nephew. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
His
The
own
whole
nephew.
time.
His
wow.
own nephew.
Oh my god.
So Sanford, Gordon's nephew.
And his mom was there, too.
What? Oh,
Was his mom there?
Let's clarify that. The uncle, what's his name? Gordon Stewart. His mom was there, not the boy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Gordon's mom was there.
So Sanford,
they're still
Gordon's
related.
nephew, he survived and told his story. He went off with his sister. His sister came to visit him while he was there on the uncle's farm, and he told his sister everything. So then they left, told the mom told the police, and so while Sanford was at the police station, he identified other people or other boys
Yeah.
specifically that he found and that he saw at the farm. So the police told him to look at the photos that he saw. So he pointed out each of the missing boys and which one he saw. And one of the boys he pointed out was Walter Collins. I guess it all goes back
It
together.
all goes back together.
So he
Everything's
looked at-
related.
Yeah. Okay. That's what happens.
Yeah. And then the police found parts of clothing and body parts that matched Walter's clothing inside a chicken coop.
So that was more evidence.
Yeah,
that he was
it was-
there.
Whoa.
It was pretty, a lot of evidence.
So
The
in Sep-
chickens didn't eat them, did they?
I mean,
I don't think we
they
can
were just-
confirm
Chickens aren't
or
carnivores.
not
I
confirm that.
No.
I think
Are they?
Chickens are
Are
descendants
they?
of
Don't they eat
dinosaurs.
I mean, they peck people.
Corn.
Don't chickens eat corn?
Yeah, they do eat corn.
yeah, they do.
I feel like they eat small things. I don't think they eat a whole person.
Okay.
Back
I
on
mean,
topic.
Because clothing is just on the ground. So.
Okay, come on.
Okay, September
yeah.
20th, 1928, Northcott was convicted of the murder of only 3 boys and received the death sentence.
So he never admitted to the death of Walter Collins, and the question is why didn't he when they found so much evidence?
And also, he is believed to have killed a lot more. He was going on trial for 9 murders, but they couldn't find enough evidence for 9, and he was only convicted of 3.
So he had the chance of doing what's called a deathbed confession,
Which means
when he was put on death row, he could have just admitted at the time to who he killed, but he never did. That's another question.
it's very popular. Like, for example, if any of you saw the Ted Bundy movie,
Yeah.
yeah, there was a deathbed confession, I think,
He
for
can
him, right?
confess for 30 of
Mhm.
them. Yeah.
It's really popular because you're gonna die anyway, so,
you might as well
admit it.
So Christine refused to accept that Northcott had murdered her son because one boy who was thought to be killed was found alive. So she kept thinking that for all her life. I think that's what she did.
Yeah.
So Christine Collins spent the rest of her life searching for Walter until her death in Los Angeles at the age of 75.
So she actually was a little crazy.
Yeah, but
She
I mean,
was
she
kinda
lost her son.
Like, for example, if we go back to the Stranger Things thing,
Yeah.
Yeah.
like the
Yeah.
lights will.
But I
God,
think
she's up there,
I think
like,
her
in-
seeing lights is kind of different from this girl just kind of living with my son's alive. But I have no
Oh,
idea
yeah,
who
of
he is.
But I mean,
course.
she's
Like, that
still
was
in
added
mourning.
supernatural.
Like,
It's
imagine
first
if
of all-
you
first
lost
of
your
all-
child, right? If you
It's still you still
Yeah.
have hope,
I
and you
think
don't
they go
want.
through stages. when
It's
you
just
lose.
like
yeah.
you don't want to believe it. It's
Yeah.
like disbelief.
It's like phase 1 denial.
Yeah.
Denial.
Only
So-
just phase
Learned in
1.
Rosalind's health class. Shout out.
Yeah.
So basically, because the story, everyone kind of knows about it. In 2008, Angelina Jolie starred in Changeling. That's how you say it?
Yeah.
And it was a story centered around the disappearance of Walter Collins. And Angelina was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Actress.
Yeah.
I tried watching that movie, and I couldn't get through it because the chicken scenes were too much.
Really.
Wait, what?
The
What
chicken
happened?
scenes.
I tried watching it
What
before I
is
knew
this
about the
movie
story. It's
Changeling.
about this, Changeling.
Okay.
And, oh my god.
Oh my gosh,
Ooh,
maybe you
that-
should watch it.
There was a
Jolie's kinda
scene.
creepy.
There was a scene in that movie where I saw what's his name, Gordon.
Uh-huh.
Like oh, the sounds of like.
If you want
the
a good
kids, and
murder
I was like-
movie-
I had to turn it off, and I had to watch SpongeBob with my sister. We had to like kill it. I was like,
Guys,
no.
murders are fun. They're so interesting.
My favorite.
Come on.
They're interesting.
Okay.
But the thought
They're not.
of-
They're not.
They're- I
fun.
They're
would say
so
fun,
creepy.
yeah.
They're not fun. They're just interesting. Okay.
Intriguing.
Anyway, it is believed that Walter Collins died on April 15th, 1928 in Mira Loma, Riverside County, California.
Yeah, so I think it's safe to say that he died on a chicken farm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and that Gordon didn't.
Gordon.
Cool. Okay.
Okay.
So,
So it was a lot. Well, really, this story was a lot about like child endangerment.
Endangerment, yes.
But it also brought to light female disempowerment because it just showed how much Christine tried throughout the whole story, but yet
failed.
If the LAPD worked as hard as she did, I bet you they could have found Walter.
Oh
faster.
yeah,
While he was
they
still
probably,
alive,
right?
they probably
Yeah.
could
It's
have.
all about them not doing
It's
anything.
timing.
They said, can't find him. Whoops, he's gone.
And it's
That's
really
just
important
insensitive.
because everything could have been solved really
It was corrupt.
really quicker,
Yeah.
so much quicker.
Well,
But
disappearance of Walter Collins.
yep. Okay, so next, do you guys want to share your murder?
Yeah, sure. Okay.
We're excited.
So, we chose the murder of Elizabeth Short, otherwise known as the Black Dahlia.
It's pretty famous.
Oh
Yeah,
I
there's,
feel like
like,
I've heard about this.
A
Everyone-
bunch
the
of
name is
movies,
infamous.
a bunch of books.
Yeah.
So yeah. So basically some background on our girl Elizabeth Short. She was 22 and she was a wannabe actress. This also took place in
The
Hollywood,
early 20s.
LA. No, it took place in the 40s actually.
Well, come with that information, I guess.
So this wartime, all that. She wants to be an actress, but she didn't have any acting credits. She wasn't known to be in any movies.
Yeah, she had lived there for 4 years and
Yeah.
didn't do anything, so she's kind of lame.
She to get to get her contact out there and stuff. She would hang out in clubs around the area
Okay.
and kind of
Yeah.
try to get meet producer people. So yeah, go around, hang out at a bunch of these places, and one of the specific kind of more clubbish places she would hang out is the Biltmore Hotel.
Was that
And-
place famous?
Wait, Biltmore.
Biltmore.
Yeah.
I think it was. I know that it's still there.
Oh, it is.
So
You think it's attraction for that? For that to be the
yeah,
last place?
actually maybe because that's where she was
You
last
would try to
seen.
get a wax museum and stuff.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, wait.
View of the body. Oh, speaking of the body, that was the last place she was seen.
And then found in the early morning on January 16th,
The suspense.
1947.
I love that.
She was found on 3800 Norton Avenue in LA.
LA again.
Yeah. And her murder was so ugh.
gruesome.
So very gruesome. So she was bisected at the waist.
Oh my gosh.
And it was
Does that mean cut in half?
yeah.
Well, bisect is bi is 2, so
yeah,
it's
so
cutting
getting
in half.
cut in half. She was dissected at the waist.
Bisected.
Bisected at the waist. Okay, she was bisected at the waist.
Yes.
And she also had a glass glow smile cut into her face. And what a glass
What is-
glow smile is basically when you're cut from your mouth all the way up to your ear.
Oh
So it
my
resembles
gosh.
Yeah.
Okay, Heath Ledger Joker.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. How did I get
Horrifying.
these scars? That's it.
And she had obviously been washed. There was no blood in her. So she was she was as pale as a
You
sheet.
empty out.
No,
Oh.
they had washed her body. There wasn't a drop of blood.
There was some tea.
No blood at the scene at all?
No, she was
not even on the
completely
grass.
Wait, but
No.
wouldn't, after they bisected her, wouldn't there
That
be
means that
blood?
she was killed somewhere else.
She
so
was
had to
killed
be
somewhere else
left
and she was left
Oh,
there.
she was left there.
Yeah.
Detective minds.
Wow, that's creepy.
And again, we kind of had that same instance of the LAPD being whatever.
No one
later.
cared.
Yeah.
What's with the
We'll do it
LAPD?
That's real
And there
LAPD
were-
really slacking off.
There were several murder
Let's hope they're better.
confessions.
Yeah.
And there's one suspect that we'll get into in a little bit. That
Did
was
they have
obviously
multiple suspects?
they had 150 suspects.
They were that incompetent.
No one was
Oh my
charged.
God, they didn't
And there was
narrow it
obviously
down.
someone, again we'll get into it in a bit,
Yeah.
who was the murderer
Mm-hmm.
with the amount of evidence, but they were just whatever.
Of course.
Too much trouble.
Yeah.
But so she had been out with a guy the night before.
At the hotel.
Yeah, he dropped her
Okay.
off at the hotel.
Okay, yeah.
But yeah. So she lived alone. There wasn't really anybody accounting for her. She was
No no, what's it
Family
called?
ties?
no family.
Uh,
no
ties.
witnesses.
No witnesses.
Witnesses, there weren't any witnesses.
Yeah, so if she hadn't been left there,
It's
She
always that
kind
one
of-
person that's alone.
Yeah, she could have been just like gone off the map completely and
That's
like
why you
So
get
she
a
may have been
dog.
people wouldn't.
followed.
Dogs are living security guards.
She just
Okay.
they don't have anybody. They didn't have any
Dogs are
witnesses.
AARP.
This is
Security.
retired.
Okay.
But yeah.
Anyway, what's next?
Okay, so,
So
we got a guy named Leslie here.
Leslie.
oh, and
I
real
love
quick,
how you
real
talk.
quick.
Okay, Leslie.
Real quick.
So
She-
Leslie was oh, do you want to?
There's one last thing. There was a letter made out of like newspaper scraps.
Oh, I love that.
Spelling out,
Oh, I love that.
Here is Dahlia's belongings, letter to follow.
I wonder how much
What?
work that is to find an
Yeah.
individual letter.
That's not the point.
That's not the if the corpse is like
I guess if you can murder
completely-
someone,
I
you
get
can
yeah.
take
If
the
you
time
can
to
murder
find
someone, you
letters,
can
like,
definitely
Yeah.
cut out.
If you can find the time
letters
to cut a glass
You can-
glow smile into someone's
Guess you
face,
can.
and bisect a person.
yeah.
Especially
He likes
tell a murderer,
cutting.
see how much they can cut. You know.
But basically,
Oh my god.
Sorry.
he sent the things.
Hannah, you're so creepy.
He
Okay.
sent the things. They included her social security card, her birth certificate, and an old address book, and covered
so
in
this was all
gasoline.
found with the letter.
No, he sent this later. He sent several letters, but this was kind of like the big one.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
And they were covered in gasoline, so they couldn't
Ew.
find any fingerprints.
Oh, that's pretty smart.
That's kinda, I was gonna say that. I
Being
didn't want to give
here-
her credit, but that's kind of smart.
Yeah.
So
kinda
here's
smart.
like
Her.
this kind of hints at like really who it could be. But we're gonna go into our first suspect
So
who
back to Leslie Dillon. So he was really weird. He wrote letters to an LAPD assistant saying he was interested in the murder.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
which is weird. And I said weird a lot there.
Yeah.
He told the officer that he thought his friend, Jeff Connors, did it. So this guy was a snitch.
Yeah.
Detectives theorized that Connors was not real and was made up by Dillon to cope with the murder. So they were like going from the
What?
stance that he had murdered her.
yeah.
So they thought that
He's trying to
he was
make
crazy,
it
kind of.
Yeah, crazy. So Dillon agreed to meet with them. And while meeting, he told them a lot of things that the killer would probably have done.
Oh, that's weird.
Which
Would
means-
probably have
What do you
done.
mean with problem?
Yeah, so like either he'd been like fantasizing about this stuff.
I think it's closer to that. I think
He knows a
like,
little too much
yeah.
about murders.
Like I feel like he
Would
must have just been
probably
really obsessed by it because
Yeah.
the other suspect has a lot more evidence.
more. Yeah.
This guy was the one who
That's
said
still
the
weird for
fan
him.
mail thing.
Yeah.
Fan mail.
But
What's crazy is that the system is really going against them. Like
Yeah.
when people come against them and say something, they're really like, "Oh, you're crazy. That's it. Goodbye."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, they're not,
LAPD.
like, actually listening
LAPD
to
needs to step up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he was held in a hotel by the police for a month in hopes of getting of confessing to the murder
Dylan
That happens a
was?
lot. You know
because they
what's
just
crazy?
wanted to get it over with.
That really happens
Of
a lot.
course.
They'll like
Yeah.
put people in there and like
Yeah.
Well, so they don't
confine
like
they're
themselves
lazy.
for like but weeks though, and even if they're not like guilty.
I think that's what they did with the Bill Clinton lady. So Leslie was taken into custody January 10th, and on January 11th, San Francisco police said they had found Connors, whose real name was Artist Lane. So
Who is-
Connors,
yeah, and
Connors was
The imaginary
Yeah.
people?
the person they
Imaginary
thought that was
person?
imaginary
yeah.
is
Okay.
actually real. So there's speculation that Artist Lane and Leslie Dillon could have been the same person, which is kind of confusing.
Oh, so they
Yeah.
actually found the real person that they. That
Yeah, they
got
found
Yeah.
the real Artist
Uh-huh.
Lane, but it would be weird if they were the same person because I don't know if they
It's
were
just
like
LAPD
seen
being
at the
on it.
same time.
Yeah. Okay.
So they later concluded that Dillon was in San Francisco when the murder took place, but could not account for his location the week of the murder. So like,
Oh.
it's kind of improbable that he was there. He was probably just some weirdo
That
like,
was really into murder.
murders, which I guess is
Yeah.
what we're doing right now.
Really
but-
into.
Yeah.
Well, also like we're not
She really
fact.
accused
Whoa.
us of exposing her.
Okay, now for the person who obviously did it. Sorry for the bias, my boys, but Dr. George Hodel. So
Yeah, I think it's Hodel.
Hodel,
Yeah.
fine. Yeah. But suspicions came to light in 1949 when he was put on trial for molesting his 14-year-old
Oh my God.
daughter.
That whole sentence is cursed.
Oh, 14-year-old daughter? That's so creepy.
He was-
and daughter.
and
daughter.
and he was acquitted. He was convicted of it, but then they
Hey,
acquitted
Emily,
him.
define acquitted.
It's kind of like it's an appeal. He was basically appealed. He was like released from all charges.
Exonerated. There you go. Like
He was not innocent. They just like acquitted him because he was like this. I don't know why LAPD.
Yeah, it's the LAPD.
Messed up court system. But this resulted in the LAPD kind of putting him as a suspect for the Black Dahlia case.
Yeah.
And he was under surveillance from February 18th, 1950 to
Wait,
March
wait.
27th,
I have a
1950.
question.
Yes.
So how did him being like weird, his daughter, how does that relate to them making him a suspect?
He was in the same area, and they kind of took this, like, suspicious activity as, like, throw him into this pile of
So do you
suspects.
think that anyone else that did something suspicious, that's why they had so many, like, suspects, is that 105 of them?
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
of course.
That's actually, like, what if you, like, just steal a candy bar and they're like, oh, you must have killed someone?
Yeah.
I mean, because if you steal something or do something bad, they know your name. Like
you're on the list.
You're on the list.
You're already, it's on
So-
your record.
The usual
So-
suspects.
From
Never mind.
February 18th, 1950 to March 27th, 1950, they bugged his house
Oh.
with microphones.
Do they have
Are they
that
allowed to do
ability?
that?
I don't
Um,
think police can do that.
Isn't there like an act
If
where
there's
you
if you
can't-
get a
you're not
warrant.
allowed
Do they
to?
tell him?
Do they have a
Yeah,
warrant?
but if you have a warrant,
it's
you have
bugged.
to
They
sue
didn't
the
tell 'em.
person.
You know, generally, like, everything was kind
It's
of
called the
okay.
Patriot Act.
Patriot
Some-
Act.
Yeah, where you can't like invade someone's privacy
Yeah.
without their
But
permission.
without their
That's just-
permission or a warrant.
But I feel like
Again, it's the LAPD, guys.
Yeah.
On February 19th, 1950, very concerning things were recorded, such as at 8:25 p.m., a woman screamed, and then she screamed again.
Oh.
It was a random scream, and she screamed twice. Then
At
it was
18.
heard that he, Dr. Hodel, said, realized there was nothing I could do, put a pillow over her head and cover her with a blanket,
Oh.
get a taxi, expired at 12:59.
is he just walking around his house like I killed her, I did it?
I think he might have been on the phone.
Oh,
They
I mean,
thought there was
that
something
would make more
fishy.
sense.
Anyways, now they may have figured it out, killed her.
Oh, well, that's
He's
pretty
kind of annoying.
darn good evidence.
And then one more thing he said, which is like super damning and like, shut up, Hodel,
Okay.
is I don't like this man. Supposing I did kill the Black Dahlia, they couldn't prove it now. They can't talk to my secretary anymore because she's dead.
What if he killed the secretary?
Yeah.
That's kind of what's hinting at with the woman
What?
screaming. Because
Oh my gosh, the woman's a
because his secretary
Stop getting excited.
his secretary died of had died of a drug overdose.
Oh.
Sure.
But
Are they sure? Is that just what's
Are you
well,
sure?
because he could have drugged her.
Yeah.
He could've-
drugged her.
He could have drugged her. He was under. He was a suspect for her murder too, because he was present for his death and burnt some of her belongings before the
No.
police
Like-
got there.
like
Yeah.
trying
Is
to
he,
So
say-
there
is he-
wasn't-
is
there
he
wasn't
mentally
enough-
insane at all? Do you know?
It
if
feels like he's trying to
mentally-
tell
Wait,
them.
was he rich?
Yeah, he was rich.
Okay.
He was
That
a
explains
doctor.
it. LAPD.
He was a doctor playboy. So, but there wasn't, he made it so there wasn't enough evidence for him to be pursued. It was later found out that his secretary was trying to blackmail him with information that he had intentionally been misdiagnosing his patients and unnecessarily giving them treatments and unfair billings.
He should not be a doctor.
No. His own son believes that he killed her. Like, that his
Really?
father killed the Black Dahlia. He spent time at the Biltmore Hotel
After she died or before?
before.
Oh.
Lillian Denorak, who lived with Hodel, said that Elizabeth Short was one of his like girlfriends that he would hang around
Plural.
with. Yeah,
Oh.
plural.
Didn't catch that.
Playboy,
Back
right?
then, Playboy.
I guess.
His wife quoted him as saying, while he was out like partying and getting drunk or whatever, they'll never be able to prove that I did that murder.
He's really putting
Oh
himself
my
out there.
Yeah, like-
He's really trying to tell them and like cryptic
No, because he's
messages.
like, I can get away with it, you know?
I wonder if
He's so like, he knows. He's so confident that he's gonna get away with it.
Yeah.
that's kind of gross.
And
Well, I mean, if he's mentally insane or something, then do you know if he's mentally insane or anything?
he got away with it. He didn't like get any of that. I think obviously he's mentally insane. He's a sociopath.
Okay.
But
Ooh, what does sociopath mean?
sociopath is kind of like someone who doesn't really have any feeling. What's like the actual direct definition?
A person with a personality disorder manifesting itself in an extreme antisocial attitudes and behavior. Like, you know when you like yawn. Have you ever heard that example? And they don't yawn back. It's like they don't feel
Yeah, they don't really
Connection.
They don't have, like,
Yeah, because if someone
emotions.
yawns and you're gonna
empathy.
yawn back. It's
So-
like they don't get the no. That's like
Yeah.
that is a thing. They don't get the cues.
He also had a nude photograph that was later with facial recognition software, like modern facial recognition software. Was
When was facial
90
recognition software created?
Or when was that like
Because this was in the 19.
They brought the case back up.
Okay, that's
Okay.
okay. That makes
Okay.
sense.
And it was like 90 to 95% likely to be Elizabeth.
Oh, so he took a.
And it was a nude
Oh.
picture of her.
Oh,
He was also a surgeon, so he could have.
yeah.
He would have been able to do like, because her body was cut
yeah.
like very cleanly and everything. There was no blood and anything.
That's
What do
So
you
that
think is the reason
explains
behind giving her the Glasgow smile? Like, what do you think?
to
Mentally-
mask to
mentally
destroy her body, to like
Probably to like hide her face or who she was.
Oh,
Or, like,
The
also, like-
Glasgow
so that people
smile.
couldn't
Does that
recognize
hide
her.
her face?
or no, it doesn't. Or
it just,
it does.
just goes up.
But
I feel
it's
like
like-
adding the
there.
cherry on top. to,
It's
like,
just
a murder.
it's just kind of desecrating her face. Like she can't.
I feel like it's kind of for show.
Yeah. She was
She
gorgeous. She
was.
wanted to be a movie star. You know, she totally could have
That's
been. So we obviously know who did it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of evidence.
Yeah.
There's tons.
More than Leslie.
Is he dead now?
He's dead now.
Oh, I hate when that
Oh.
happens.
I hate when people die.
His
hate
son,
when so many good
his
sisters
son
and
has
then
been
die.
has been pressing for them. He wrote a book about how he growing up with his father and how he thinks his father
that
did
would-
that
He
and was
wrote a book?
responsible for other his
That would've been a
George
terrible
Hodell's
dad.
son.
Like,
Can you
Steve
imagine how
Hodel.
bad your dad must have been? And your
Imagine
child
yeah.
to
living with
literally
your
write
dad.
a book, a whole book.
And
on
he
how
thinks
he
he
was
also
guilty.
murdered other people.
Yeah, imagine living with this
Ew.
sociopath. Like,
Ew,
Yeah.
Can you
Knowing
imagine
it.
like, oh my gosh, if he like molested his like daughter, that's weird. How does that,
I
like,
know. What about
No.
his son? Like, oh my god.
This man is awful.
Yeah. So, but he was never convicted like officially. So the case remains unsolved.
oh,
Well,
So,
I guess
yeah.
that concludes
That concludes
the
our
Black Dahlia.
very
wow, we're
fun way
we're
to
ending with a
end.
really creepy note.
Well, thank you for listening to our podcast. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, and remember, watch your back.
don't trust the LAPD to solve anything.
Yeah.
And don't trust doctors.
Also,
Apparently.
don't die.
Yeah, don't die. And stay tuned for our next episode. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Adios.
Let's talk murder, killers don't sweat. Let's talk death.